Blog Talk Radio.
Hi there, and welcome to the Living with Love ACIM discussion group that's in Durham. We're in Southern Ontario, and we've decided to put a voice out here. And today we're going to be discussing the Holy Spirit and the healing of the dream, which is chapter 27. So to lead this off, I will start reading chapter 27, part 1, paragraph 9, 10, and 11. And then my guest, Matthew, will join in, and we will see what comes up as we invite the Holy Spirit into this conversation that we're having this evening. Okay, so it starts off with, your function is to show your brother sin can have no cause. How futile must it be to see yourself a picture of the proof that what your function is can never be. The Holy Spirit's picture changes, not the body into something it is not. It only takes away from it all signs of accusation and of blamefulness. Pictured without a purpose, it is seen as neither sick nor well, nor bad nor good. No grounds are offered that it may be judged in any way at all. It has no life, but neither is it dead. It stands apart from all experience of love or fear. For now it witnesses to nothing yet, its purpose being open, and the mind made free again to choose what it is for. Now is it not condemned, but waiting for a purpose to be given, that it may fulfill the function that it will receive. Into this empty space from which the goal of sin has
Do you just want to talk about that one paragraph? Might be easier if we just go paragraph by paragraph. So,
okay.
And in that first paragraph, I'm just reminded about how it's in the earlier workbook lessons, how everything that we identify in the world, it has all meaning that we've given to it, and that the world in itself is actually, although it was made in an inherently unholy way, being a product of the ego, we look at it in a neutral sense, and from that neutral standpoint, we're able to look at it through two teachers. We're either seeing everything in the world as an interpretation of the Holy Spirit's vision, or through the ego's interpretation of separateness. And I think what's describing that particular paragraph there is simply the interpretation that we can choose to take upon the body. And a great line from the text, I can specifically find where it is later and post it up in the community, although I think I did from last week's call, but I'll just mention it again, that the Holy Spirit uses the body to communicate with others, first at the level of the mind, and that's expressed through our physical actions or our vocalizations. But the Holy Spirit sees the body only as a means of communication, and because communication is sharing, it becomes communion. And in that paragraph that we just completed, I think that would be the general theme, that pictured without a purpose, the body is seen as neither sick nor well, nor bad nor good. It's entirely up to the teacher we choose that gives the interpretation of the body, and it can be used as a vehicle of healing, or it can be used as a vehicle of destruction.
Yeah, it's amazing because, when I'm listening to you, there's so many different things coming through my mind, to touch upon and clarify for me what you're saying and what this paragraph is speaking about. So I'm just hoping that, the readers are also taking away from that as well. I'm sure they are, because we all have our own experience. And, myself years ago, I decided to start changing my thoughts to be as positive as I can. So, it's, I won't say if I'm not doing well, I won't say that. I'll always try to go to positive. I always speak in the positive tense. And but that was something that I really had to learn and work on. But it really has made a big difference in my life. But it's true how the body is just a vehicle to communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe if you just read the next 2 paragraphs, and then we can continue from that point right there that you just brought up.
Okay. You know what I think is interesting, because I'm sure that we all have our take on this. So yeah. Thank you for keeping us centered here, Matthew. So number 10, into this space, empty space, from which the goal of sin has been removed. Can you put your speakers down because I hear myself? Like big time.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm going to start over. Into this empty space, from which the goal of sin has been removed, is heaven free to be remembered. Here its peace can come, and perfect healing take the place of death. The body can become a sign of life, a promise of redemption, and a breath of immortality to those grown sick of breathing in the fetid scent of death. Let it have healing as its purpose. Then will it send forth the message it received, and by its health and loveliness proclaim the truth and value that it represents. Let it receive the power to represent an endless life forever unattacked. And to your brother, let its message be, behold me, brother, at your hand I live.
Yeah, that's great. I really love that part at the end where, behold me, brother, at your hand I live. There's an earlier part in the course where it's, externalizing all blame. It says, behold me, brother, at your hand I die. And this is the correct interpretation of what the body is for and what the world is for, and that is simply for healing. And when all things in the world become a reflection of Christ, or become a reflection of the face of Christ, then we truly see that there are opportunities to return home. And I feel that this paragraph that we just finished reading in this end section in chapter 27 really brings home that idea of we have to use the body, but not only the body, everything in the world is our vehicle that brings us back truth. And it's about giving the illusion to the truth. So we give our body to the Holy Spirit, or we give the body to the Holy Spirit, and through that we're given a correct interpretation as to how to use the body and how to express forgiveness and the extension of God's love through our body into others. And with that mentality, it's, behold me, brother, at your hand I live, for it's only with you that we can join hands and rejoin at the level of the mind with Christ.
Wow, that was really beautiful. I think the only thing that I would add is just how the healing always begins within. And, at first when someone is on a journey of healing, sometimes they might get a great desire to want to heal others or the planet or a situation they see as unfair. But when they can take that and internalize it and work on it, that's when, the real miracle happens for each person. So did you have anything to say on that, or shall I go on to the last little paragraph here?
Yeah, well, I think in the first couple lines of the paragraph we just read, here its peace can come and perfect healing take the place of death. I mean, in order to get to the truth, we first have to look at what is false, or what is, unreal. Mm-hmm. And another way said is that in order to get to the love, we first have to look at the hatred. And said another way, in order to get to the life, meaning like real life in heaven and with God, we have to look at, death. And I think there's a real desire in this kind of New Age community to cover up the death and the dying, and to want it to disappear or go away, or to make it invisible. And that's really not what the Course is all about. The Course is about looking at all this seeming hatred and destruction, and realizing that what we look upon with the body's eyes is simply a misinterpretation. And, that obviously takes a learning period. That's why the workbook is at least 1 year to work through, until you can really start to change your perception of all that is in the world. But eventually we get to the place where words that we use, no longer really have meaning, because we realize they're just neutral in and of themselves, and it's simply the teacher we use in our mind, and the words flow out from that. And some people may interpret certain words or certain gestures or certain events and circumstances as, being negative or hurtful, or, making them, making their bodies have a negative emotional reaction. And that's perfectly normal, and it's perfectly normal to go through that process even as you're working through the Course. The number one point of the Course is just not to judge yourself as those things happen. So it's not so much about trying to cover things up or trying to avoid things or trying to heal others. It's really just about looking upon the world and not judging it. And, and when you do judge it, not judge yourself for judging it. It says anger is never justified in the Course. It doesn't mean you're never going to get angry, and it's the same thing. It doesn't mean that you're never going to get upset or, have a negative reaction to something, but you just don't have to justify. You don't have to reinforce it with a storyline about why something is the way that it is. You can just simply look upon something and that you've deemed as being, bad or hurtful, and say, that's just another silly mistake. I must really be afraid of love today, and just try and be as objective as you can when you're looking at all these things in the world. And the spirit, when we've kind of removed that emotional, reactive viewpoint from things and move more into a place of forgiveness and healing, and we see the world more as information. It's either something that can be interpreted through the ego or interpreted through the Holy Spirit, and when you're seeing it through the eyes of holiness, its function only serves as a value to bring us closer to home and closer to God.
Wow, you've touched on a lot of really beautiful points there. I love listening to you, talk about the Course, because, it just sort of, I focus just on the listening, and, then every question I was thinking of asking you goes out the window, but that's okay, because this is, it's all a learning experience, and I love it too, because it means, you've digested this enough to verbalize this as well as you are. So, I think I'm just going to go into number 11 here, and then that way we won't have to think about getting back to getting this paragraph in. It'll be done, and then we can just kind of chit-chat from there. So number 11, the simple way to let this be achieved is merely this: to let the body have no purpose from the past when you were sure you knew its purpose was to foster guilt. For this insists your crippled picture is a lasting sign of what it represents. This leaves no space in which a different view, another purpose, can be given it. You do not know its purpose. You but gave illusions of a purpose to a thing you made to hide your function from yourself. This thing without purpose cannot hide the function that the Holy Spirit gave. Let then its purpose and your function both be reconciled at last and seen as one.
Yeah, that last paragraph is really great. I love it. I like the line that says, you do not know its purpose. And that's just like everything in the world, right? We don't know what it's for. We assign different values of hierarchy and priority of things in the world and thinking that certain things are more valuable than others. But, as it, I think, describes in the laws of chaos, I think that's in chapter 23, that there is no hierarchy in illusions. And then right in chapter 1, in the 50 miracles principles, I think it's the first principle, is that there's no order of difficulty in miracles. And, it's just describing this in the last paragraph, how, again, we gave the body a different purpose. We gave it, an order of difficulty, or we gave it a hierarchy. And that's why we don't know its true purpose, is because we thought it had value when it didn't have value. And, I'm speaking in metaphysical terms right now, so I wouldn't want to neglect treating the body well. I mean, of course, we appreciate the body just as we appreciate anything else in our life, and we treat the body as well as we can. The thing is, and Ken Wapnick mentions this so often, is just not to take it seriously, right? You can do all the wonderful things that make your body comfortable, but you just don't believe that that's the reason you're comfortable. You can start to see all these things that you've begun to do to make your level of comfort more harmonious. You can see them as being reflections of your right-minded choice for peace and harmony and joining with the Holy Spirit on the level of the mind. And it simply, gets manifested in a specific form that kind of accompanies your current perception. But it's never about the things that we're doing. It's always about that right-minded choice from the level of the decision maker that is being reflected in the world.
Wow, and that's good. And when you started to say which was your favorite part, I think when I read through this today, there was just one line that really touched me, and it was, "You but gave illusions of a purpose to a thing you made to hide your function from yourself."
Yeah, that's perfect. You but gave illusions of a purpose to a thing you made to hide your function from yourself. This is really talking about the two dreams. And we have world's dream of, being a body, and then we have the secret dream, which covers up the fact that we're actually a decision maker as a collective son of God. We're not a body, we're not a world, we're not a universe, we're not consciousness. We're a decision-making mind, and that's where all our power rests. And, as the Course, alludes to, doing this for, millions of years or, thousands of lifetimes, we've been giving an alternate purpose to illusions, and that purpose has been to hide us from the secret dream of, our full empowerment as a decision-maker. And it's really that's the whole key of the Course, is to bring us back to that place of non-judgment and the idea that we are a decision-making mind, that we are a mind, not a body, not a world. I mean, all the things that we perceive in the body actually came from the mind. And Ken Wapnick repeats so many times, it's not the mind that's in the body, it's the body that's in the mind. And when we're talking about the mind, we're talking about a mind that encompasses everything. It has no necessarily physical description, but if you think of the body and the world and our planetary system and the universe and time and space and consciousness itself, and you wrap all that up and put a circle, and then outside that circle would be the decision maker. And it's from that point as a decision maker that we're able to choose either the ego or the Holy Spirit as to how we view all of the things in the mind, in that circle. And if we choose the ego, then we see, the destruction and separation. And that's really what that line is about, how we gave illusions of a purpose to a thing that we need to hide our function from ourselves. That's an interpretation through the ego of the world and of the body. But then when we change our mind for truth, or if we give the illusion to the truth, and now we can see through the vision of holiness, we can begin to see the final purpose of all things. And then I think it's summarized in the next two lines. This thing without a purpose cannot hide the function that the Holy Spirit gave. which is the interpretation for truth and the interpretation to return home to God. And then it says the final line, let then its purpose and your function both be reconciled at last and seen as one. So now as a decision maker, we can join minds with the Holy Spirit and reconcile ourselves for the vision of truth and the goal of returning to heaven.
Yeah, that's really, really beautiful. It's interesting when you're talking about this, I just sort of let my mind go because, we have invited the Holy Spirit into this conversation. So, whatever insight I get, but I think about the illusions of a purpose to a thing, and I know they're talking about the body, but it really brought me to Western commercialism. How many people who, want to lose weight will go and buy an exercise machine because to them that's going to symbolize they're going to lose weight, but yet they have to do the work to make it happen, and I just think there's so many unnecessary things that we buy because we are attached to giving something a purpose. Like if we get this, or even if it's we get this new job, we'll be happier, or this new mate, or whatever. So I think it's so far-reaching, that statement.
Yeah, because we give false idolship. That's a word. We make a false idol out of everything. Out of the body, out of the world, out of exercise machines, out of supplements. And, Ken Wapnick specifically discusses about, jumping around from ladder to ladder until we finally find that final ladder of, ascension, if you will, where we can finally, forgive others and forgive ourselves and return home. But until we find that ladder, we're constantly putting our power outside of ourselves to some external source. And we're basically saying that, the power of God is in someone else or is in something else. And, it's just a matter of time until, someone, gets sick of jumping around from ladder to ladder and they say, there's got to be another way. There has to be a better way of living. And, at the same time, an exercise machine or a supplement can be symbolic of a right-minded choice. It's just the interpretation you give to the thing. But, if you're thinking that I need to take this pill, and if I don't have this pill, I'm not going to, be a better person, or I'm not going to lose weight, then you've fallen into the ego's trap. But if you think, I'm taking this supplement, and it's helping me along my way, and it's just my current state of perception and my current reflection of the Holy Spirit's interpretation, and it just happens to be this supplement, but it could be any supplement. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to take this one because that's what's right in front of me, and it's making my body feel better, and that's great, but eventually, we lay all of these crutches aside, right? Even the Course itself is a crutch. As we ascend this ladder towards heaven, and begin to understand what the Course is actually saying, it doesn't become necessary to hold on to it as much as we do in the beginning. We can begin to let it go, just as, laying the body aside for the final time is kind of the last thing we do as our function in the world. That's the last thing that we appear to do, is just lay the body aside once it's served a purpose. And the important thing is that all these tools and devices and physical things that we appear to have as we exist as a body, we should just appreciate them and use them with the Holy Spirit, right? That's really the key to finding the joy and happiness in whatever you do. As long as you're inviting the Holy Spirit in to do it with you, then you're in a spiritual place, and you know that you're on your path to salvation.
You know what? I think that's really beautiful too, and it's interesting because now the whole time you've been talking, I've been thinking about some older people that I know, and I'm going to specifically talk about people in their 90s who still live in their own homes, who are fully functioning and capable, drive cars, work in their gardens, grow their vegetables, cook their own meals, do all these wonderful things. And if you've ever gone and hung out with one of them, it's just so amazing to see the way they, even if they don't have a course of miracles, because most of them at that age, they wouldn't have been open to that, but just to see their level of contentment with what is, their level of patience, the way they recycle, the way they, the way they prepare food for you, the way they share with you, the way they tell a story, and, I just think it's amazing because, there's so many different ways to get to this peaceful, like you're saying, the ladder towards heaven, and a course is just one way. And like you said, it can also be a crutch too. So we can't always, it's such a nice thing to have, but we can't get too stuck on it, right? Because then we're also giving it, false idol is what you called it?
Yep, absolutely. I think that's great because the course, it's a course in miracles, right? It's not the course in miracles. So, obviously, and everyone's path with the course is also unique. So, like, I'm having Matthew's course in miracles, and you're having Sarah's course in miracles, and we gain different perceptions from it as well. We can collaborate it with one another and kind of speak that same course language, and it's very helpful. But at the same time, we're getting our own experience with it. And that's eventually where we want to end up, is having that, I think it's described as being a quantitative change to a qualitative shift. So meaning that we change our intellectual understanding of the world, and that begins to change our thoughts. But eventually that just changes to an overall qualitative shift in experience. We start to gain an experience in what heaven feels like and what holiness feels like, and that's the real goal. I mean, I've said that a couple times, 2 or 3 times, is that what the real goal is. They're all implied in one another, though. Being non-judgmental, becoming a decision-making mind, and the final point about gaining that experience. These are all experiential things. Being non-judgmental, that's an experience. The idea that we are a mind, that's an experience, right? It can be intellectually understood up to a certain point, but then eventually we have to let that intellect go and just move from the head into the heart and really start to feel what the Holy Spirit is.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I feel like it's going to wrap up my thoughts, because like you said, this is Sarah's side and that's your side, and and I'm really hoping that our listeners are having some really wonderful aha moments with us. But when we say about see as one, because just because when I went to hang out with my 92-year-old grandparents in-laws, just because I had that wonderful experience with them, it's because 90 seconds left. It's because I was at a place where I was able to see that as beautiful and wonderful and something to achieve for in my life. But when someone is still really focused with the ego, they would look at that and think, oh my God, look at that, and they wouldn't give it as much respect, I think is a good word to use, as I did.
Yeah, totally in agreement. Mm-hmm. And I guess we're wrapping up here. So, yeah, there's been a wonderful call again, and I look forward to many more.
Cool. Thank you, and thank you for listening. Once again, it was Living with Love. We are a Course in Miracles group that meets up in Durham, Southern Ontario. And if you'd like to connect with us more, just leave me a message somehow, and I will do that. Anyways, thanks for listening, and I hope you join us again. Bye for now.